speak about a response to the incident. We will take questions following their comments. Bonjour, je m'appelle Lisa.
Good afternoon, my name is Lisa Croteau, and I want to thank you for being here and calling the phone line. There are a number of media on our conference line who will be listening and participating. Today, the RCMP in Nova Scotia and the Assistant Commander Lee Bergerman will talk about the events of last night and today. She will be followed by the officer responsible for criminal operations in Nova Scotia, Chris Leatherman, who will talk about the RCMP's response to the event. We will take questions following their comments.
Good evening. Today is a devastating day for Nova Scotia, and it will remain etched in the minds of many for years to come. What has unfolded overnight and into this morning is incomprehensible, and many families are experiencing the loss of a loved one. That includes our own RCMP family. It's with tremendous sadness that I share with you that we have lost Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year veteran of the force who was killed this morning while responding to an active shooter incident. Heidi answered the call of duty and lost her life while protecting those she served. Earlier this afternoon, I met with Heidi's family, and there are no words to describe their pain. 2 children have lost their mother, and a husband has lost his wife. Parents have lost their daughter, and countless others lost an incredible friend and colleague. Heidi's family is a part of the RCMP family, and we will embrace and support them in the days and weeks and months ahead. Unfortunately, I have to also share that another one of our officers was injured and is in the hospital receiving treatment of a non-life-threatening injuries. He and his family will be supported, and we will be alongside him as he begins his road to recovery. This tragic incident has also resulted in many victims outside of the RCMP. Countless families are in mourning today. Each person who lost their family and friend, and they too will need their support. The impact of this incident will extend from one end of the province to the other. As Nova Scotians, we have to do what we're known for and come together in times of need and support each other. So right now, I'd like to turn it over to Criminal Operations Officer, Chief Superintendent Chris Leather, who can speak more about the criminal investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chief Superintendent Chris Leather. I am the Criminal Operations Officer for Nova Scotia RCMP. I would like to offer my sincere condolences to the family of Constable Stevenson and to the families of all the victims. I would also like to acknowledge the member who was injured and his family. As you can appreciate, this is an extremely difficult day for the RCMP and for the families who have been affected by these tragedies. We are in the early stages of an incredibly detailed and complex investigation that has forever changed countless lives and has left multiple victims. Our focus right now is to gather all evidence and information about these incidents and to get answers to many unanswered questions. I will provide here as much detail as I can, as this is indeed still a very early stages investigation into a very tragic situation. Last night, following multiple 911 calls, Nova Scotia RCMP members responded to a firearms call to a Portapique residents in Colchester County. When police arrived at the scene, members located several casualties inside and outside of the home. They did not, however, locate the suspect. This was a very quickly evolving situation and a chaotic scene. Many units responded, including emergency response teams and police dog services. We also received support from other police services, continue to receive support from other police services, especially Halifax Regional Police. Our focus was the safety of the residents in the immediate area. We secured the area and began a search for the suspect. The initial search for the suspect led to multiple sites in the area, including structures that were on fire. The search continued overnight and into the morning. This morning, we actively sought out the suspect through multiple communities throughout Nova Scotia. The search for the suspect ended this morning when the suspect was located, and I can confirm that he is deceased. I can also confirm that the matter has now been referred to CERT. Again, this is still an early and very active investigation that involves multiple crime scenes and victims. We will have further updates as more information becomes available, and we will let you know when that will be. There is an active investigation, as I already noted, being conducted by the Serious Incident and Response Team, that's CERT. So we're not able to provide any further details to some portions of the investigation. I want to thank the dedication and resilience of our members who worked tirelessly to locate the suspect. The coordination demonstrated by everyone involved is truly remarkable. We have reached out to all of our employees to ensure that they have wellness resources available to them during this difficult time. Thank you very much. Commanding Officer Lee Bergman and I will now take any questions that you have.
Just for the French audience, I'll read the statements in French at this time, then we'll take questions. Bonsoir.
Good evening. This is a devastating day for Nova Scotia, which will remain etched in our minds for many years to come. The events that took place last evening and during the day were devastating. Many families lost loved ones, and that includes our RCMP family. It is with a heavy heart that I must announce the death of Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year veteran who lost her life this morning as she answered the call of duty. Heidi answered that call and lost her life while protecting the community she served. Earlier this afternoon, I met with members of Heidi's family, and there are no words to express the devastation and sorrow they're feeling. 2 children lost their mother, a husband lost his wife, and many other people are left without their colleague. Heidi's family is part of the RCMP family, and we will embrace and support them in the days and weeks and months to come. Unfortunately, I must also inform you that another RCMP member was injured and is now in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. We will be with him and support him until he has recovered. This tragic incident also involved multiple victims outside the RCMP. Many families are mourning today. Each person who died had family and friends who will also require support. The impact of this incident will be felt right across the province. We will be there to support each other. And now I will provide the comments of Chief Superintendent Chris Leather.
Je voudrais offrir mes sincères condoléances à la
I want
famille
to
de
express
Constable
my sincere
Stevenson et à la
condolences
famille de toutes les
to the
victimes.
family of Heidi Stevenson.
Je voudrais aussi
I would also
vous faire savoir qu'un membre aussi a
inform
été
you
blessé
that another
et sa
member
famille.
was injured and express my
Ils sont
support
dans nos
for
pensées.
that family. They are in our
Faut
thoughts.
apprécier que c'est une
It's important to
extrême,
understand
journée difficile pour la GRC
that
et
this
pour la
is a very
famille
tough time for
qui
the
a été affectée
RCMP
par la
and the
tragédie.
families who have been affected by this
Au niveau
tragedy.
du début des stages de,
We are at the
une enquête très détaillée
early stages of a
qui
very
va changer,
detailed
la vie
investigation
de plusieurs personnes,
that
plusieurs victimes.
will change the lives of
Notre
many
focus,
families and
en ce
victims.
moment, c'est
Our
de
focus
pouvoir
right
avoir
now
l'information,
is
des
to
incidents qui
gather
ont,
information
arrivé.
regarding
d'avoir
the incidents that
des
occurred
réponses pour des questions qu'on
and be
qu'on ne
able
connaît
to
pas.
answer the questions we have now.
Je vais donner des informations le plus que je peux.
I will give you as much
à ce
information as I can
J'espère
at
que
this
vous
stage,
appréciez que
and I do hope that
c'est
you
dans le
appreciate the
début de
fact
l'enquête et
that
que
this
c'est
is
une
the
situation
beginning
très
of
tragique.
the investigation of a very tragic event.
Hier soir, après
Last evening,
plusieurs appels d'111,
After a number of calls, the RCMP in Nova Scotia responded
d'un homme armé à une maison à Portapique,
to a call about an
dans le
armed man
comté de Colchester.
near
Quand les polices sont
Colchester.
arrivés sur la scène,
When the police
les
arrived
membres
on scene,
ont trouvé plusieurs
officers
personnes,
found
décédées
a number
en dedans et en dehors de la maison.
of casualties inside and outside the home,
Cependant, on n'a pas trouvé le suspect.
but the suspect was nowhere to be found.
C'était une situation qui a bougé très rapidement.
It was a
Et c'était une
situation
scène
that evolved
chaotique.
very quickly, and it was a
Plusieurs,
chaotic scene.
Plusieurs membres de la GRC,
A number of
membres de la,
RCMP officers
emergency response team,
and members of
et
the
notre
emergency
service de
response
chien de
team,
police
as well as our
sont
police
aussi
dog
offert leur
service,
support, aussi
were
que les
also
autres
there
polices de
providing
service
support,
de,
as well as other police
de
services
Halifax aussi.
from Halifax and
Notre
elsewhere
focus
in the
pour
province.
C'était pour la sécurité des résidents.
Our priority
de
was
la
to secure
région
the area,
immédiate. Nous avons sécuré la
and
région.
we
On a
were
commencé
able to secure the area.
Pour essayer de trouver le suspect.
And then we began the search for the
La
suspect.
recherche initiale pour le suspect.
In the
mis
initial
plusieurs
search
sites,
for the suspect,
dans la région. Il y avait plusieurs
we
structures qui étaient en
discovered
feu.
a number of structures that were on
La
fire.
recherche a continué durant la
Our
nuit et
search
dans le matin.
continued during the
Ce
night and
matin,
in the morning.
Nous
This
avons,
morning,
essayé de trouver le suspect dans plusieurs communautés.
we went to a number of communities to try and find
La
the
recherche pour
suspect.
le suspect a
The
fini
search for
ce
the
matin,
suspect
quand le suspect
finished
s'est-
this morning.
s'est trouvé,
when
Et
the suspect was found,
on l'a arrêté, il était décédé.
and he was arrested and is now
Encore,
deceased.
c'est le début d'une enquête qui est très active.
This is the beginning of a
et
very
il y a
active
plusieurs
investigation,
signes,
and
et plusieurs victimes.
there are a number of crime scenes
On aura
and
plus,
victims.
L'information pour vous autres plus tard.
We will have additional
Et on vous
information for
laissera
you
savoir c'est
later,
quand qu'on va avoir cette information.
and we will let you know when that
C'est
information
une
will be available.
Une enquête active
It is an
qui
active
va être aussi,
investigation
conductée par le Serious Incident
that
Response Team.
will be co-led
Alors, on
by
peut pas
the
dire
Serious
plus,
Incident
plus de
Response Team,
détails
and
dans
we will have more
l'enquête.
details to provide you
Je
about the
voulais remercier
investigation in due time.
La dédication des membres qui ont travaillé pour trouver le suspect. La coordination démontrée
The
par tout le monde
coordination
était
and
très
dedication shown by everyone was remarkable.
remarquable. Nous avons parlé avec nos membres pour
We
mettre-
talked to
pour être sûr
our
qu'ils ont les
members
ressources,
in order to ensure
pour, dans cette
that they
difficulté,
have
de cette
the
journée de difficulté.
resources
Merci.
to do what must be done. Thank you.
We will take questions following this, and please provide your name and agency for the benefit of all participants. On va prendre des questions maintenant. S'il
We
vous
will
plaît,
take your
disiez votre nom et
questions now.
votre,
Please give your
votre
name
agent et,
and
pour
your
le
media
bénéfice de tout le monde.
outlet for everyone's information.
I can tell you that in excess of 10 people have been killed, but the investigation is still ongoing, and I expect to have more details in that regard in the coming days.
Thank you very much. Can you please explain what you mean by in excess of?
I'm afraid at this time I can't expand on that any further.
You mean that we don't know what they've done?
Correct. We don't have a complete, we're not fully aware of what that total may be because as we're standing here, the investigation continues into areas that we've not yet explored across the province.
Are there locations, Inspector, besides Portapique where people have died, besides the shooter?
Yes, there are several locations across the province where persons have been killed.
Can you tell us the other locations,
No.
the names of the towns?
I don't have those locations at my disposal. Suffice to say, there were several locations. I don't have that information currently.
How should we describe that the suspect allegedly commit crimes in Portapique and then continue in the car and commit other crimes, the same person?
Yes, we believe it to be one person who's responsible for all the killings, and that he alone moved across the northern part of the province and committed, would appear, several homicides.
Was the suspect known to police?
No, he was not.
You mentioned the serious incident response team. Can you explain their involvement? As I understand it, they're called in whenever there's a discharge of a police officer's firearm, is that right?
Anytime there is death or injury that occurs, member of the public in this case, as I noted in my speaking points, the threat was ended, and the lone suspect has that part of the investigation has now been turned over to CERT for investigation because our officers were involved in terminating the threat.
I'm sorry, they were or they were not?
They were. An RCMP officer was.
So in plain language, he was shot by a police officer.
I can't speak to the details of what exactly occurred there, but
very unclear and hard to hear and understand. How many have been deceased in the
no, sir, I think we're still.
last night?
Just one sec, we'll get calls from the teleconference in just one moment.
Sorry, sir.
One last question, if I may. Was there gunfire exchange between officers and the suspect in shooting activity?
I can't tell you exactly what location because I'm not sure, but at one point during the course of the evening, there was an exchange of gunfire.
Victoria Walton, Halifax Mayor. I was wondering if you could speak at all to any perceived motivations at this point.
Too early in the investigation, and we simply don't know at this time. Those are, of course, the very issues that will be under close investigation in the coming days, but I'm afraid I don't know at this time.
Inspector, the Premier of this province has described today as a double tragedy because we're all going through a pandemic. Can you speak to whether there's any relationship between COVID and what's happening here today? It's very different worlds, very different incidents.
Again, it's very early, and that certainly is an aspect that we will look at, we'll examine, but we have not yet determined whether there's any link to the COVID-19 crisis.
What is it correct to say this person was armed with a gun or some kind of firearm?
Yes, at one point during the course of the evening, he was armed.
And is this the method he used to kill people, or were there other methods?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that other than to say that he did use his firearm during the course of the evening. It's quite possible he used other methods. I simply don't know at this early stage.
One last question for me.
Yes.
As the investigation continued, have you cleared the properties that were
The clearing of properties, the investigation into other locations is ongoing. Suffice to say that those activities have only just begun.
So this is where there's some difficulty when you say in excess of 10, there quite possibly could be more victims within these properties.
That's correct, sir.
Is it correct that this man's, some of his relatives, wife or children or any of his relatives were amongst the initial casualties?
Sorry, not at liberty to answer that at this stage.
And when you said return casualties, did you mean they were found, the people found in that residence were dead or both injured?
Both dead and injured, that's correct.
Are they all dead now?
No, they're not.
Okay. So they were dead and injured?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just wondering how many victims are injured that haven't died, if you can speak to that at all?
That we know of, 2 for sure, perhaps 3, because it's quite possible that victims check themselves into area hospitals, and the investigation has not quite yet caught up with that.
Okay. We'll take questions from the teleconference now. If someone has a question? Yes, if you have a question for the teleconference? Okay, you're going to have to, can you speak a little bit louder?
Sure. It's Tasha Pate with CTV News. I'm wondering if you can discuss earlier today there was some information that the suspect had both what appears to be a police uniform and a police car. Can you discuss that?
Yes, I can confirm that at one point during the course of the evening hours, he appears to have been wearing, if not all, then a portion of a police uniform, and that we believe that he was driving at one point a mock-up or a vehicle that was made to look like an Rcmp police cruiser.
Does that speak to some planning from a police perspective or any type of way that all is not for these things?
If it speaks to pre-planning on his...
Of course, that's an important element in the investigation. The fact that this individual had a uniform and a police car at his disposal certainly speaks to it not being a random act.
Do we have another question from the... Go ahead.
If you just take the open questions from the teleconference, I'll jump in here from the Mark Douglas with City News. Regarding the victims, can you tell us, do they belong to a specific demographic, religion, or ethnicity? Are they women or men? Could this have been a hate crime motivation?
Too early to tell in terms of what the motivation was, as I said earlier. What I would say is it appears to be, at least in part, very random in nature.
Did the suspect have a history of violence or extreme political opinions of any kind?
Not that I'm aware of.
Was he known to police in any way?
Again, it's early and I'm not aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you speak to any type of relationship between the victims and the suspect at this time?
I'm sorry, due to privacy reasons, I'm not able to discuss the relationship with the victims, other than to say there were some that appeared not to have a relationship with the assailant, the shooter.
I apologize if you've already answered this. It's difficult to hear on the phone, but is there some information you could release about Constable Stevenson's death, where it took place and what transpired?
I did not hear.
What transpired with Constable Stevenson's death, if we provide any information on it?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the specifics of the death of Constable Stevenson at this time.
Are you
outside of the one village that I mentioned earlier in my talking points, I can tell you that they were scattered across the province, and I don't have a list here to give you the specific locations or times, because that's very much under investigation. That sort of information will be coming hopefully in the coming days when we have a better idea of where the victims were taken and some timing around that. We simply do not have that as of yet. Some of these crime scenes we've not even begun to process. And as I said earlier, it is an ongoing investigation that could reveal additional details in the coming days.
Do you have an idea of how many RCMP to the assailant?
Well, I spoke to that earlier, certainly in excess of 10, but we don't have a final count, which is the reason why I'm not able to give specifics to that. It's in excess of 10. It almost certainly will be more than 10. How much more than 10, I do not know.
Okay, at this time,
I apologize for asking, but your audio portion of the conference is almost inaudible at most times.
I apologize for that, and that's going to be the last question that we're going to take at this time.
Can I squeeze one more in? Mark Douglas, City News.
What's that?
Ms. Activate, TV News.
Derek Adams, Transit Transit of Moncton. Can you confirm the suspect was from the Moncton area, that he's originally from the Moncton area?
The only one other thing, it might be appropriate to speak a little bit more about Heidi and her background, as she's the victim here.
We will have plenty of opportunity to do that at a time and location that is more suitable. I just don't think this is the right time for that.
Can you tell us when we might get the next update?
Honestly, that's in conjunction with our media folks. I would expect in the coming day. Thank you very much.
We can promise that we will be,
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Inspector.
Thank you.
thank you.
If you're getting spelling or anything, I can help you with that.
I know, okay.
Can you let me know when you get the one?
Yep.
Okay.
Elisa.